A packed house, and we love that. We are going to start tonight's meeting with a roll call to identify the council members that are here for tonight's meeting.
Council members Aguilar.
Here.
Anderson Jr.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Entenmann. Erpenbach.
Here.
Jameson.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Rolfing.
Here.
Thank you, City Council. We are going to start tonight's meeting, as we always do, with an invocation. And we're so pleased to have Dr. Ron Tottingham with the Empire Baptist Temple here in Sioux Falls to lead us in prayer. What we'd ask you to do is to stand up, and then after Dr. Tottingham is finished, we'll then proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would all please stand.
Before I pray, I'd like to thank the Boy Scouts. You're an American tradition. Proud to have you here tonight. From my part, whether the City Council is or not. And thank you for your service as much as possible. And thank you. I know I'm supposed to pray, but you know, out of all the weather and all the climes, you guys show up to make this the best city in the world. Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, tonight, thank you for the honor and privilege that I have to be here tonight to bring your blessings down on the decisions and things that this body makes to give us one of the greatest cities in the world. I pray that you'd bless them tonight, that you'd guide in all the deliberations and the input they get from the crowd and all the other things involved, that you might have preeminence in all things. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As Dr. Ron mentioned, we do have a number of Boy Scouts here in the audience tonight. We're so pleased to have 3 different troops. And if I could have each group stand as I recognize you, and then sit down as we recognize the next group. But I want to start with a troop from Holy Spirit Church. That is Troop 731, and I had the distinct pleasure of doing a Q&A session with them earlier tonight. Welcome. Thank you, man. Then we also have, from the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints, we have 2 troops. We have Troops 21 and 218. If you'd stand. Thank you all for being here, and in the council, as well as I know, that it's not just the young men of the Cub Scouts that make good things happen. It's the good stewards right beside them, the moms, the dads, the volunteers. So thank you as well for what you do. We are going to move on with tonight's agenda. We're going to start with the consent agenda. Council, any changes or motions on the consent agenda?
Move approval, Erpenbach.
Second, Aguilar.
Councilor Box made a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Are there any comments? A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jameson.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 7-0. We'll now move on to the regular agenda. Council, any changes to the regular agenda?
Move approval, Aguilar.
Second, Jameson.
There's been a motion by Councilor Aguilar to approve tonight's regular agenda, seconded by Councilor Jameson. If there are no comments, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jameson.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 7-0. Again, welcome to tonight's meeting. As always, the City Council wants to provide anybody an opportunity to come up front and engage them in a dialogue where you can speak to the council on any topic. What we'd ask is that if it is a topic that is going to be addressed later on in the meeting, that you hold your comments until then. But otherwise, come forward, just state your name to the council, and if you could limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, they would appreciate it. Anybody want to speak to the council? Well, thank you very much. It's good to have you here anyway. Thank you so much. We'll now move on to item number 10.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for the sale of the river ramp parking structure to River Greenway Hospitality, LLC.
Good evening, Erica Beck with the City Community Development Department. Next slide. I'd just like to talk a little bit about the project scope and to remind you all of what we are presenting you tonight includes a much broader project than the specific ordinance that's coming before you for consideration. First and foremost, we are pursuing removal of the river ramp structure. Following the removal of the river ramp structure, we would then be pursuing phase 2 of the River Greenway project, of which I know that you have all heard about, and as well as the construction of the Hilton Garden Inn by the development company, or the development LLC, excuse me, River Greenway Hospitality LLC. I'll just go over the milestones for the project briefly, and then we'll talk about the next steps and specifically the ordinance. As you all remember, we issued an RFP for redevelopment of the city-owned property that exists on the east bank of the Big Sioux River where the river ramp sits. We received one proposal from C.R. Lloyd Associates and Hague Companies Incorporated in February of last year. We held a number of different evaluation committee meetings. We awarded the project publicly on November 1st of 2011. We worked very diligently internally at the city level to ensure that this project, the removal of the river ramp, was permitted through the Corps of Engineers and other various permitting agencies. We also brought forward to you in January of this year a TIF district, which was TIF 14 for this project, and that was approved moving forward. The development group submitted a franchise application to Hilton Companies. All of the existing river ramp customers have been notified several times of this upcoming demolition schedule, and we'll talk a little bit more about the next level of communication with those folks here shortly. We did finalize the development agreement with River Greenway Hospitality LLC, and we are working thus far on the permitting of the river ramp demolition. The next steps in this project, first and foremost, the transfer of the river ramp to the development team. That is what is before you tonight for consideration. Council action this evening would provide for an effective date, if approved, on or approximately March 9th of 2012. The transfer of the ramp to the development company provides both parties with an opportunity to proceed with ramp demolition prior to the land being transferred. So just again to clarify, the actual ordinance that we're bringing forward tonight would only transfer the structure, not the actual land. We'll talk in greater detail about the ordinance in just a few moments. Number 2 on the next steps, the notice to vacate for the river ramp customers. If the ordinance is approved this evening, we will provide a formal 30-day notification to all of the current tenants in the river ramp structure. Tomorrow we will send that out, and we'll work with those different entities and individuals over the next 30-day period to ensure that they are relocated to a new spot within the system. Third on the list is the vacation of the public parking shop and the office from the river ramp. The shop and garage currently located in the river ramp structure are going to be vacated and relocated to an alternative site within the downtown area as part of this project. We anticipate that the ramp demolition will proceed on or about March 12th, given again that the ordinance tonight being considered is approved. With regard to the actual ramp's demolition, we will be planning a celebration and will provide further details as they are worked out. This is not going to be an exciting demolition involving dynamite or anything of that nature. We're trying to keep this as low-key as possible. The majority of the work will include deconstruction of the ramp instead of formal demolition. A crane will actually be perched in the river on the north side of the ramp, where it will pick pieces from the ramp and put them onto the east bank where they will be removed permanently. We anticipate a lot of people being interested in the project, and we'll be doing a lot of outreach via Channel 16 to make sure that all of this is documented, because it is somewhat of a historical event in our city's history. An ordinance to transfer the city-owned land will come before this body upon the filing of an official plat by the developer. That could be as early as March 12th. The ordinance would then provide for a close date of the property following the removal of the river ramp. And all of that is again dependent upon the developer working with the franchise in terms of exactly what type of footprint that they're going to have, so that they know exactly what the plat will look like, and we can proceed forward then with the transfer of the property. We anticipate that the ramp demolition will be complete on or about June 12th, roughly 3 months from start to finish. This is obviously contingent upon different weather-related events and a lack of any additional issues coming to light with regard to the actual ramp's demolition. The developer is working diligently to ensure that the construction of the hotel can begin immediately following the demolition of the ramp, and the city's River Greenway project will also begin upon the ramp's formal demolition. In the future ordinance to transfer the city-owned land, the city will define a construction period also for the hotel of 18 months following the date that the river ramp is formally removed. According to the schedule presented, that would accommodate a hotel opening as early as September of 2013. Next slide. Just to remind everyone, this is what the proposed hotel development looked like. That was presented on November 1st of last year when we publicly awarded the project. Again, the development group is working with Hilton Garden Inn on what that final image will look like. This is not a new concept for Hilton Garden Inn, but again, it's not necessarily picking a standard format for a Hilton Garden Inn off a shelf per se. They want to make sure that whatever they are constructing fits in well with our downtown and specifically the East Bank area. Okay, if I may, I'd like to just talk a little bit more in detail about the actual ordinance that's before you tonight that would allow for the transfer of the river ramp structure from the city to the developer. This is a formal agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and the River Greenway Hospitality LLC. River Greenway Hospitality LLC consists of Mr. Craig Lloyd and Mr. Paul Haig. The city is essentially entering into an agreement that provides us the ability to transfer ownership of the structure to the developer for a minimal fee. In return, that the developer will demolish the structure and assume all liability in doing so. The developer has agreed to follow the demolition specs as they've been provided by the city's consultant, which is Walker Parking Consultant. We've worked very much internally with that group to make sure that all of the specifications put forward for demolition were approved by the Corps of Engineers in terms of that process. So it's very important moving forward that we maintained that statement within the ordinance and agreement that's before you this evening. Section 3, the first paragraph of the agreement that's attached to the ordinance, basically states that the developer agrees to pay liquidated damages if the structure is not removed within 90 days from the date of its transfer from the city. Again, this is just standard language, but we felt it was important to include to make sure that there was a specific time frame in place. This, again, is subject to any unforeseen circumstances, such as flooding, or anything else that could prevent a crane from being in the river and allowing for demolition to take place. So that will be a partnership, a coordinated effort moving forward with the city and the developer. Section 3, again, within that agreement, the second paragraph talks about how the city has provided for an opportunity to reimburse the developer for the structure's demolition if, in the event that the demolition does not occur, but the proposed that the demolition does occur, but the proposed development does not occur, that the city would then reimburse the developer for the cost of said demolition. We felt that was important to do because it's the city's intent, and it has been the city's intent, to move forward with that demolition, even without the actual hotel project occurring. And this, again, is just extra justification and decreasing the risk for the development group as well. And then just to reiterate, the City Public Parking Division does have that funding for the demolition of the river ramp budgeted within their capital improvement program for 2012. Those were the main items within the agreement that we wanted to talk about in more depth. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, Mr. Lloyd and Mr. Haig are also in the audience and prepared to answer any questions that you have for them as well.
Erica, thank you. Does Mr. Lloyd or Mr. Haig, did they want to speak or did they want to wait for questions? Sounds good. They'll wait for questions. Folks, this is what we call a second reading, so you have the opportunity to engage the council if you want, ask any questions. Is there anyone in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Very good, very good. Council, I'll now turn this over to you. Council, any questions, comments? Motions?
Move to approve, Karski.
I'm sorry, Counselor Jameson?
Move to approve, Jamison.
Okay.
Second.
Counselor Jameson's made a motion to approve, seconded by Counselor Karski. Sorry, Counselor Brown. Love the enthusiasm, Bill. There has been a motion to approve, seconded by Counselor Karski. Is there any discussion on this item? Counselor Brown.
No discussion, just a couple of thanks for Lloyd Companies and Hague Companies for investing in downtown. But I also want to thank Erica Beck. It seems like anytime we have an extremely complicated issue, be it tax increment financing or complicated developments, redevelopments like this, Erica leads us through it and does a great job at it. So we appreciate that, Erica.
Counselor Jameson.
Yes, I'd like to thank Erica, too, on all of her hard work, but as well, as we start this send-off party for this river ramp, which is about what it is, I don't know how much money the river ramp has generated for the city of Sioux Falls over its lifetime, but I think in some way, some measure, I don't know of another city-owned asset that's generated that much revenue for its parking system. Am I a little confused on that? It just seems like a workhorse that's kind of had a great life. It's come to its end. Time is up. It's time to go down. But I think we should at least acknowledge that river ramp has served the city well. That's all.
Great job, Counselor Jimson. Thank you. Counselor Brown.
I just had one question. Did Craig Lloyd bring the dollar with tonight?
Mr. Lloyd is good for it, it sounds like. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Mr. Hague, did you want to address the council? Please, we'd love to have you come forward.
Paul Hague, 1300 West 57th Street. I just had to share a story I heard tonight when my father called and has a relationship with someone down in, he's in Phoenix at his winter place. And he said that the daughter of the mayor in 1954, Faye Wielden, was the one that put that ramp into place. It was his vision and his, so to speak to your comments about it's been a successful venture for him. And the story goes apparently that he actually, when they did the ribbon cutting, they flew him in on a helicopter and he landed on top of the ramp, and that's what kicked off the whole thing. So maybe you ought to fly in on a helicopter for the day that we demo it and you can swing a sledgehammer. So.
I will consider that, Mr. Hague. Thank you.
I just thought that was a good story.
Councilor Rolfing.
I was thinking, Paul, that Mr. Noby maybe has another idea, and that maybe it should be, exploded and just tilted a little bit down into the river to start it off.
A skateboard ramp or something.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Mr. Hague, part of this agreement is that if that redevelopment doesn't happen on the east side of the river, we would have to reimburse for the destruction of the river ramp.
Correct.
Under what scenario do you feel that that could happen?
There's lots of variables, but probably the most, obvious one is that we can't go out and secure financing until this part is completed. And with the way that the financing markets have been recently, in particular when it comes to hospitality, because it's been the slowest recover, we have that delta out there. We just don't know if, we feel confident that we're going to get the financing, but you just don't know how lenders are going to react today. I just got done with a project that we funded for an assisted living center, and senior housing is a pretty hot topic in today's world. It took me 6 months to get the financing put in place, and it was not without its challenges. So, those are things that we just have to contend with, that we don't know how the market's going to react.
Mr. Hague, thank you again for your investment as well. Mr. Lloyd, thank you as well. And Mr. Schoeneman as well. Well, team, there is a motion and a second, and if there is no further discussion, I am going to ask for a roll call vote.
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 7-0. Item 11.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations, health $500,000, police $8,000, transit $5,664, and $22,656.
Mr. Trebek, welcome.
Thank you. Tracy Turback with Finance Office. This is second reading of a supplemental ordinance for the Health Department, the Police Department, and the Transit budget as well. I know you have an amendment that will be considered in a moment relative to the transit portion of this ordinance. But I will say there are representatives from all three departments here to address any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trebek. This is a second reading, folks, and there was some dialogue that happened a week ago. This is now a second reading. Is there anybody in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Very good. Council, I'm going to transfer it over to you. Any questions, comments, motions?
Move approval, Erpenbach.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Buck's made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Anderson, Jr. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to amend the ordinance by removing the $5,664 sales and use tax fund and increasing the transit fund from $22,656 to $28,320.
Second, Aguilar.
Councilor Buck has made a motion to amend this item, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Is there any discussion on this?
You know, if I might,
Councilor
Mr. Mayor, just to
or
clarify
Buck?
for folks that are watching it, since we didn't really have a presentation tonight, this has to do with federal funding. There was more federal funding available, and we didn't need to use local funds. And so all we're doing is saying we're not using local funds, and it's all going to be federal money taking care of it.
Great job, thank you. Council, there's been a motion to amend it, seconded. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Is there any further discussion? We have a vote on the main motion as amended.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 7-0 as well. Item number 12.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations, Washington Pavilion, $30,000.
Guess I'll start by speaking on this, Mayor. This $30,000 is going to be used at the pavilion to create a section of secure, that will be creating an enclave that will be a secure area for displays. This is a start of, I hope, a project at the pavilion that in our hallways around the Great Hall, there isn't a lot there for people to see. During the day of the pavilion, there's not a lot of things there for them to go through and be able to see. This will be a project that will start creating areas for people to walk through the pavilion to see different displays that could be from our local artists or other groups that would like to display items of interest. And also with our pavilion, we've always had the perception that the pavilion is only for maybe a certain few groups, and there's a lot of groups who feel that they're not welcome in the pavilion or there's nothing there for them to see. This hopefully would create a program to where there would be other areas created like this, no matter what level of the pavilion it would be done at, for people to walk through the pavilion and have things for them to look at. And it would also be something free. The first group that we have looked at to display items in this enclave would be the South Dakota African American History Museum. This is a group that has worked very hard to grow and get more exposure from the area where they are located, which is the Multicultural Center. The biggest problem there is there's no access for anyone to be able to get in and see these displays. The last thing on this is whether this group stays in that enclave or not, it is a permanent addition to the pavilion, once again, for local groups to be able to display items of interest. And I ask you to support this.
Councilor Anderson, Jr., is there anyone else who's going to speak to this item today?
We're supposed to have someone from the pavilion here today.
Okay. And they're one of the sponsors, is that?
John Lowe's, yes.
Okay. John, welcome.
Welcome, Mayor. There's a couple of slides I bring, should be available. She said they were on the desktop of the laptop, that's what they told me.
And while they're waiting, I guess if I could continue, Mayor, while they're setting
Sure,
up there.
you bet. Councilor Anderson Jr.?
Last year, the council was looking at this, and I felt that we had a lot of agreement on this, but the problem was we were looking at using sales tax revenue. A few months ago, the pavilion came to us and asked us to amend some of their sales tax, entertainment tax revenue to from heating and air conditioning improvements to putting on a show. And that's when I started looking at the entertainment tax money as something that could be utilized for doing this. And the entertainment tax money is actually earmarked for improvements to buildings like the pavilion, the convention center, the arena, the zoo, and it also can be used for operational expenses at the pavilion. And being one person who is, I'll be admitted, never been a big supporter of the pavilion, I see this as a way that we can encourage other people who don't feel that they're welcome through those doors or there's anything for them to see, to go into the pavilion and see the different things that we have there. So I'll leave that to you now, John.
John, welcome.
Thank you. John Lowe's, Vice President of Operations for the Pavilion. What you see before you is, for those of you that need a little history in the pavilion was created to bring a lot of cultural, nonprofit, arts, science type organizations together under one roof. And for those of you who know, over the course of the last 12 months, we've tried to do that consecutively. We're bringing South Dakota Symphony on board, bringing Jazz and Blues now on board. Sioux Falls Arts Council lives with us. And one of the things we like to do is, as you can see in the picture there's a long hallway. The pavilion, when it was created a lot of times with a lot of sheetrock. Hallways were straightened out with sheetrock, and if you walk down a long hallway like that, pretty boring looking sheetrock. One of the things we've done, as you can see on the left, is just hang some pictures, but in the next slide, you can see at the other end of that hallway, we've taken and cut some enclaves into that, actually to put some art up on the walls, which is one of the things we're trying to do to bring more things in. This next project will take those two areas you see right there, have cutouts behind that sheetrock anywhere from 18 to 30 inches back. So we can put these enclaves in, put glass up, and actually protect things behind them. Displays for the museum to be brought over, or other organizations. If you've been upstairs on second floor, you can see we have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame up there. We took out a non-used information desk and put a bunch of glass and it displays up there. And that group right now is investing $10,000 more into that display to put some automated lights and automated graphical displays in place. So this money is actually just to kind of hollow some of those spaces back out, put the sheetrock back in place so we maintain our fire code ratings, and then put glass fronts in so people can use them.
Council, any questions of Councilor Anderson Jr. or John? Well, very good. Folks, this is a first reading, so you don't have the opportunity to discuss this with the council. But Council, did you have any recommendations at this point?
Move to approve, Anderson.
Second, Erpenbach.
So a motion by Councilor Anderson Jr. To set a hearing and second reading for Tuesday, February 21st at 7 p.m. for this item. And it was seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Is there any discussion? Councilor Jameson.
I just have a quick question. I'm not sure who would answer, but obviously we have money in the unreserved fund to pay for this. I don't know how much is there, but obviously we do.
Tracy.
Maybe the real question is how much money is in the unreserved fund?
This, again, just to clarify, this is entertainment tax dollars that we're talking about. The ordinance would call for using unreserved fund balance from the entertainment tax fund, and there are sufficient dollars in there to cover this $30,000 appropriation. We will end the year somewhere above 1.5 million, I believe, in unreserved fund balance.
Thank you.
Well, very good. There has been a motion made. If I could just have a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 13.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by creating an operations committee of the City Council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Urbanbach.
I just would like to speak to this. This is just a minor change in ordinance. We currently list the standing committees for the City Council as the Audit Committee, the Fiscal Committee, and the Public Services Committee, and the Land Use Committee. What this does is adds to that list the Operations Committee that then will oversee staff people, the Legislative Operations Manager. This committee, it doesn't say this in ordinance, but just to remind folks that this committee would be composed of the sitting chair and sitting vice chair of the council, as well as the most previous past chair and one other person elected at large, and it'll just be kind of an oversight committee that will kind of help advocate for the council on a regular basis. And so all it is a basic adding of a few words to the ordinance.
Councilor Buck, thank you. Would anybody like to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, February 21st at 7 p.m.?
So moved. Aguilar.
Councilor Buck made that motion, seconded by Councilor Rolfing. If there's no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 14.
A resolution declaring the necessity to grade, gravel, construct curb and gutter with driveway approaches, construct sidewalk, storm sewer, asphalt surfacing, sanitary sewer, water main, and street lights on West Benson Road and North Bob Holla Drive, and assessing the cost to each lot or tract of land benefiting thereby.
Mr. Evie, welcome.
Good evening. Chad Heavey with the Engineering Division of Public Works. In 2009, the City Council approved a resolution to enter into an agreement with Sanford Health and the South Dakota Junior Football Association regarding the construction of the Sanford Sports Complex, which is just west of the airport. A portion of this agreement states that the city will complete the utility and street improvements on Benson Road and Bob Holla Drive and assess these costs to the adjacent property owners. Tonight's resolution declares the necessity to complete the improvements and assess the costs when the project is complete. When construction is complete and the final costs are known, I will bring this resolution of assessment back to the City Council in 2013 for the actual assessment. Bids for this project were opened on February 2nd. We received 13 bids ranging from approximately $740,000 to $953,000. We are in the process of awarding the contract to T&R Contracting of Sioux Falls. Per the contract, the road has to be open to traffic by July 3rd, and overall completion is July 20th. The properties involved in this resolution are Sanford Health on the north side of Benson Road, Bob Hall on the south side of Benson Road, and then Sanford Health again on both sides of Bob Holla Drive.
Mr. Evie, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Very good. Council, would anybody like to make a motion on item number 14?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Urbanbach.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this resolution, seconded by Councilor Urbanbach. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Urbanbach.
we need to make an amendment
Thank
to change the, to revise the legal description. So I'm going to make a substitute motion to adopt the amended ordinance with the revised legal description. But then my question is, I need a second, but then we need to read it out loud. It's a resolution.
I made a mistake. My apologies.
Duly noted that this, I'm making a substitute motion to adopt the amended resolution with the revised legal description. Then my question, Mr. Mayor, is do we need to read the legal description out loud?
Can I get a second?
Second,
Seconded by
Aguilar.
Councilor Bach. Councilor Aguilar. Counselor Urbanbach, would you mind now asking your question?
My question is, do we need to read that legal description out loud? Because it was just a little bit funky for people to know that there was just a mistake in it when the way it was originally written. We just need to make sure that we have it clear. We do need to read it out loud, is the nodding I'm seeing.
Ms. Pfeiffer, Ms. Pfeiffer's answered that as a yes.
Chad,
so-
would you do that for us?
Yeah, would you mind?
I will.
For the record?
I will do my best.
Or do you want to try to do it, David? You want David? David said he'd try to do it. Chad?
All right.
I'll do it.
All right.
Okay.
The West Benson Road from North Westport Avenue to North Bob Holla Drive, and North Bob Holla Drive from West Benson Road to 1,320 degrees north. It'll be the southeast quarter, excluding Tract 2 of Hall's Addition, and excluding Lot H1, and excluding the north 925 feet, west 942 feet, lying east of Lot H1, and excluding north 450 feet, east 482 feet, west 1,424 feet, lying east of Lot H1, and it strikes out and excluding Sanford Sports Complex Addition. Section 31, T102 North, right-of-way 49 West, Minnehaha County, South Dakota. North half of the northeast quarter, striking including, and it says excluding. You got me stumped on the FE1, Chad. That's the one I'm not. Front east 1, and excluding 2.24 acres of the southeast corner, and excluding Lot E1, County Auditor's Subdivision, and excluding Lot H1, Section 6, T10, striking the 2, replacing it with a 1, N-R 49W, Minnehaha County, South Dakota.
Very good, very good.
I sincerely apologize for that error.
Very good, Chad. Thank you. And City Attorney Pfeiffer, nice work. That has been read into the record. Is there any discussion on this item, Council? Well, very good. Hearing none, we do have a substitute motion by Councilor Urbanbach. If we could vote on that, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
So that's good.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
I tried to make it easy.
Item 15.
A resolution amending the 2012-2016 capital program.
Thank you, Mayor. This relates to item number 11 that you folks addressed earlier in your meeting relative to the supplemental budget ordinance for health and transit.
Any questions or motions, Council?
Move to approve, Anderson.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Jameson.
Mr.
Questions,
Mayor.
Councilor Brown?
We do need an amendment on this one as well. I move to amend the resolution under transit to remove the sentence, "The additional funding will require an increase in appropriations and will be funded by the sales use tax fund 20% and the transit fund 80%," and add the sentence, "The additional funding will require an increase in appropriations and will be funded by federal stimulus dollars."
Thank you, Councilor Brown.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Erpenbach has seconded that amendment. Is there any discussion? Very good. If we could vote on the amendment.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. We'll now vote on the main motion as amended.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 16.
A resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to certain citizen boards.
Would you mind reading those names to the people of Sioux Falls?
We have Mike Von Bergen to the Public Parking Advisory Board and Daniel Obaka to the Multicultural Center Board.
Very good. Council, any questions on that? Would anybody like to make a motion?
Move approval, Aguilar.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Aguilar has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Karski. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Council, any further work tonight?
Move to adjourn, Brown.
Councilor Brown,
Second,
thank you.
Anderson.
It's been seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Sioux Falls, make it a great night. Thanks so much for your attendance, and City Council, as always, thank you for your work. Make it a great night. This meeting is adjourned.